I'm 83 years old, and I'm about to tell you something nobody likes to say because it sounds too blunt. Not your friends, not your pastor, not your therapist, not the nice ladies who post quotes about gratitude. They won't say it because it's painful and because it makes people nervous. I'm going to say it anyway. Most of us live like we have forever, and we don't. And even worse, this is the part that keeps me up some nights. We live like we'll remember to appreciate people later, even though later has a nasty habit of never showing up. I'm a widow. I lost Vincent 15 years ago after 46 years of marriage. I've outlived friends I thought I'd grow old with. I've watched my 5 children, David, Linda, Sarah, Emma, and Michael, build lives that don't always have room for me the way I imagined. And I've had my own dignity stripped down to the studs after a catastrophic fall left me on my floor for 11 hours, unable to reach my phone. So when I tell you this, I'm not speaking from theory. I'm speaking from lived experience, from embarrassment, from regret, and from a kind of clarity that only shows up when life has already taken what you thought was guaranteed. And look, I'm not here to depress you. I'm here to wake you up. There are 2 things I need you to hold in your mind while you listen to me. First, you can love someone and still take them for granted. Second, you can swear you'll change after a tragedy and still slide right back into autopilot. I did. Let me tell you when I actually learned that lesson. Not at 80, not at 70. I learned it young enough that it should have changed my whole life, and it still took me decades to really understand what it was trying to teach me. I was 34 when I had my first real wake-up moment. Vincent and I were still raising children. The house was loud then. Sticky hands, school projects, bills on the counter, dinners that got cold because somebody needed something. I remember a Thursday night. I remember because I'd made a roast and it was dry as dust from being left in the oven too long. I was tired and irritated, and Vincent walked in and said, "Smells good in here," like he was trying to be kind. And I snapped at him. I said, "If it smells good, you can cook it next time." His face changed. Not angry, just shut down. He took his plate, sat at the table, and ate in silence. The children got quiet because they could feel it. You know how kids can feel a mood shift faster than adults? They did. Later that night, I went into the bathroom and looked at myself, and I thought, what am I doing? What am I becoming? Pay attention to this detail because it's going to matter later. Vincent didn't yell back. He didn't punish me. He just got quiet. And I realize now, at 83, that quiet was him taking one step away from me emotionally so he wouldn't say something he couldn't take back. I went to bed and I told myself, tomorrow I'll apologize. Tomorrow I'll do better. And then tomorrow came, and the kids needed breakfast, and the phone rang, and the world started shoving me forward again. I didn't apologize. Not that day. I let it slide. I let it become normal. And what I didn't understand back then was this. The danger isn't one bad moment. The danger is how quickly a bad moment becomes a habit, because life keeps moving and you keep meaning to fix it. Vincent and I had good years, and we had hard years. We had a period in our 40s and 50s where I honestly didn't know if we'd make it. We didn't talk about divorce in polite company, but we lived close enough to it that I could feel it. We rebuilt. We learned how to be gentler. We learned how to stop keeping score. So when people talk about marriage like it's one long honeymoon, I almost laugh. It's work, and it's attention, And it's choosing the person again and again, even when you're irritated and tired. Then Vincent died. And I'm going to tell you something that still makes my stomach drop. He didn't take all my unsaid words with him. I said, I love you. We did that. We were good about that in the end. But he took something else. He took all the ordinary days I didn't notice. He took all the moments I treated like they were guaranteed. And once he was gone, those ordinary moments became the only thing I wanted back. I want you to hear me clearly. It's not the big days you miss the most. It's Tuesday night. It's the sound of a key in the door. It's someone asking, "Did you lock up?" It's the second cup of coffee sitting across from you. It's the stupid little arguments you'd give anything to have again. After he died, I made promises to myself. I said I wouldn't waste my time. I said I'd be present. I said I'd stop worrying about silly things. I said I'd put relationships first. And you know what? I broke those promises. Not because I'm evil, because I'm human. Humans forget. Humans drift. Humans slip back into old grooves and call it being busy. And this is where the story gets heavy. Because the moment that finally drove the lesson into my bones wasn't Vincent's death. It was my fall. It was being alone in my own house, the house I fought to keep, and realizing how quickly life can reduce you to a body on the floor. I fell in the afternoon. Sun was still up. One moment I was standing. The next moment I was down. I hit hard. I tried to push up and couldn't. I could see my phone on the end table, and it might as well have been in another state. At first, I told myself, "You'll be fine. Just rest. Let the pain settle. Try again in a minute." Then minutes became an hour. Then 2. I started talking out loud to keep myself from panicking. I said, "Okay, Laura, think." I tried to drag myself by my elbows, like I'd seen someone do on television. It didn't work. My shoulder felt like it was on fire. My legs shook. My mouth got dry. The house was too quiet. That quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the world had moved on without me. I was ashamed. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And then the phone rang. I heard it. I heard my ringtone echoing in that room. I couldn't reach it. I couldn't even see who it was. It stopped. Then it rang again later. Then nothing. You're not ready for what comes next. At some point, lying there, I started thinking about all the times I'd been physically present with people, but mentally somewhere else. All the times one of my kids talked to me, and I half listened while I stirred a pot. All the times a grandchild showed me something, and I said, while I was thinking about something else. Because lying on that floor, I understood what absence really is. It's not always leaving the house, it's leaving the moment. I later found out Emma had stopped by because she had a feeling. That's what she told me, a feeling. She opened the door, called my name, and when I didn't answer, she found me. Her face crumpled. She kept saying, "Mom, please don't die. Please don't die," like I was already halfway gone. And that's when everything fell apart in my family. All 5 children came at me with solutions. I was still bruised, still shaky, still humiliated, and they stood in my living room like a committee. David said, "You can't live like this." Linda said, "This is serious, Mom. You could have died." Sarah said, "Let us help you, please." Michael stayed quiet, but I saw his jaw working like he was holding something in. Emma cried. And when Emma cries, I feel like I'm being accused, even when she doesn't mean it that way. They wanted Meadowbrook. Just for a little while, they said, just to recover, just to be safe. Here's the thing. Safety can be a leash if you let it. I went to Meadowbrook for 30 days, and I'm going to be honest. There were good people there. There were kind aides. There were nurses who tried, but the system didn't see me. The system saw fall risk. I sat in a common room and watched a television blaring something nobody was watching. I watched women parked in wheelchairs like furniture. I heard someone call out for help and get told, "In a minute." I waited for "in a minute" to turn into actual minutes, then half an hour. I felt my pride shrink. I felt my voice shrink. I felt myself starting to comply just to avoid being labeled difficult. Wait, it gets worse. I realized that if I stayed, my children would relax. They'd tell themselves they'd solved me. And the longer I stayed, the easier it would be for them to say, "See, she's fine there." That's how it happens, not with cruelty, with convenience. So I made a decision. I decided I would not sleepwalk into the rest of my life. And that brings me to the lesson I wish I'd learned decades earlier, the one the 103-year-old in that other story learned and kept trying to repeat to herself. It's not enough to wake up once. I have to wake up and return. Wake up and return, over and over. Let me explain what I mean by return. I return to my home, but I also return to responsibility. I got rid of the rugs. I installed grab bars. I put brighter lights in the hallway. I moved my furniture so there were clear paths. I practiced standing up slowly instead of rushing like I used to. I kept my phone on my body, not on a table. I set check-in calls that didn't feel like surveillance, just touch points. And after that fall, I started writing things down, just for me, little rules, little reminders, what to do if I feel dizzy, who to call first, what I refuse to agree to when I'm scared. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't know it at the time. But my granddaughter Claire found that notebook later and said, "Grandma, this is a survival guide." She helped me put it online. She called it The Ultimate Guide to Freedom. I still feel strange about it, honestly, but that's a story for the end of this video. I returned to presence too. I started noticing when I was drifting, when I was scrolling instead of listening, when I was filling silence with noise because silence scared me, when I was calling my children not to connect, but to soothe my own panic. Honestly, I had to admit that some of my loneliness was self-made. Not all of it. Some of it is just the price of outliving people. But some of it came from me grabbing at attention instead of building a life I could stand to live inside. So I made myself a practice. And yes, it sounds simple. It is simple. It's also hard. Every time I catch myself rushing through a conversation, I stop. I return. I say, "Tell me again." Every time I catch myself thinking, "I'll do it later," I ask, "What if later doesn't come?" Every time I feel that old autopilot, clean the kitchen, check the news, worry about what I can't control, I return to one small thing I can do right now. I call someone I love. I step outside and feel the air. I sit with my tea and actually taste it. I look at Vincent's photo and I let myself remember him without turning it into punishment. Because here's the cruel truth I learned too late. The regret that hurts the most isn't the big mistakes. It's the small absences. It's being there but not being there. I've seen it with my grandchildren. Claire comes and she sits and she looks at me when I speak. She asks questions. She notices, and it fills me up in a way I can't explain. And I've also had visits where someone sat on my couch and stared at their phone while I talked. I didn't yell. I didn't lecture. I just watched it happen and thought, someday you'll remember this, and it'll sting. And look, I'm not saying phones are evil. I'm saying attention is love. That's what I've learned at 83. Attention is love in its most practical form. So if I could go back and talk to my younger self, the woman who snapped at Vincent over a dry roast, the woman who thought she had time, the woman who believed she'd change tomorrow, I'd tell her this: you're going to forget, you're going to drift, you're going to sleepwalk through days you can't get back. But your job is to notice and return. Notice and return. Not perfectly, persistently. And now I'm going to end where I need to end, because this is the part I keep circling. One of my children, David, called me again this week and said, "Mom, you need to take that book down. It's embarrassing. You're putting family business out there." And I went quiet after we hung up, because part of me wants peace more than I want to be right. Part of me wants my children to approve of me, even now. And that's where I have to make my choice again. I'm embarrassed to be selling something at 83. I really am. I didn't set out to put anything online. I wrote those notes because I was scared and I didn't want to end up trapped in Meadowbrook again. But women keep writing to me, telling me they felt seen for the first time in years. They tell me they used my rules to fight for their home. They tell me they stopped apologizing for wanting independence. So I'm going to say it plainly. The link to the Ultimate Guide to Freedom is in the pinned comment. I might take it down soon because I'm losing my nerve and because my son keeps pressing me. So if something I said today reached you, click it now. Don't wait. And if you're still here with me, leave a like. It tells me to keep going when I'm tempted to go quiet to keep the peace. I read every comment you leave, every single one. If you've been living with regret or fear or family pressure, tell me what's happening. I'm here. Subscribe if you want to keep talking. Every week I sit down at this table and I tell you the truth, because later never comes. And I don't want you sleepwalking through the life you still have.